How you doing? It's the live lottery show here on The Ringer. My name is Bill Simmons. Kevin O'Connor's up there. Kyle Mann, Big Woz. We're going to prepare over the next 20 minutes for a consequential lottery. Now, the lottery is always important. Always things happen. Get a number one pick, number one overall, you get excited about. This one has ramifications. KOC, the biggest ramification for you tonight with how the ping pong balls could go with teams losing their picks, keeping their picks.
It's that Houston pick. They have the number one odds in the draft lottery. However, if they fall out of the top four, it's going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that would be bad news for Rafael Stone and that Rockets front office if they lose that pick, because the opportunity is here to get a franchise-changing player in Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley with the number one or number two pick, and then two really good consolation prizes and Jalen Suggs and Jalen Green at 3 or 4.
So if that pick falls to 5, they then have to swap it for the number 18 pick, and number 5 would go to OKC. OKC has the 4th best odds in the ping pong thing. So the OKC best scenario would be coming out of here with 1 and 5, and then Presti's taking a big victory lap. We also have Minnesota. Woz, how'd you feel about the D. Russell trade as it was happening when you found out Minnesota was giving up a top 3 future protected pick? What was your reaction back in the day?
One, they're doing the trade because it's Karl Anthony Towns guy. I'm not a fan of bending over backwards for guys who've never done anything for your franchise, right? It's like, why are we doing this for a guy who we once got the 8th seed because Jimmy Butler was in town, and everything else has been pure misery. So why are we bending over backwards and moving heaven and earth to bring in guys at his behest? At a certain point, it's like, is it the end of the world if Karl Anthony Towns doesn't want to be there anymore? If I trade him and get stuff for it, right? I think a lot of times teams are guarding against something that they don't actually need to. Start the clock again on another potential franchise dude.
It gets worse than that, because Wiggins was part of the trade in the terms of that added to the value of the pick, because it was like, well, you have to take Wiggins. Kyle, man, Wiggins is now your guy. You're ready to do like a 25-minute summer video of him this summer, I think, right?
Me personally, no. I mean, I've done one on it before.
I have bad information. My bad.
I'll sign up for it.
Did somebody say that in the chat? No. No, Wiggins isn't my guy.
But Wiggins was better in Golden State than you expected him to be, correct? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he fits. I mean, he's sort of plug and played in there, and there's not as much expected from him in terms of like dictating the culture of the team or anything like that. I mean, I understand. I don't know how much we want to talk about the merits of Karl Anthony Towns, but it's been pretty bleak over the history of the franchise for Minnesota. So, I mean, I understand why they would be hesitant to lose him, because I mean, he is generationally special as an offensive player. I guess the problem is they've made some mistakes in terms of how they planned in terms of like what types of stars, and those things are more troubling to me. It's like whenever they brought in Jimmy Butler, if you know anything about Karl Anthony Towns, you would have known that was a bad idea from the jump. Like, personality wise, that was just not going to work. Like, because they come from different sort of like Jimmy is such a self-made man that he only has patience for certain types of players, it seems.
Well, it didn't sound like he liked Ben Simmons either.
Well, he does.
I mean, that certainly was one of the reasons he left Philly, was he didn't like the culture there either. Then he finally found Heat culture, and the rest was history.
Aren't all of these moves that Minnesota's made, from Jimmy Butler, now D'Angelo Russell, isn't it all about just trying to make things work, with Karl Anthony Towns, because he is that special offensive talent Kyle mentioned, pairing him with a great two-way wing like Butler, pairing him with a pick and roll point guard like D'Angelo Russell. On paper, I understand it, but a lot of these moves do reek of desperation and rushing things rather than taking your time. And so that's why for Minnesota, tonight's really important too, because they could get one of those guys who can help really build something nice here alongside now Cat, Anthony Edwards, and D'Lo as potentially your 3rd or 4th guy. He doesn't have to be a key player.
Well, and then on the flip side was Golden State. If they end up getting 4 or 6, they keep Wiggins. They get Klay Thompson coming back. They got a full year of Wiseman. They're in a West that is just completely in flux. We might see the Phoenix Suns are the favorites to make the finals in the West. it's not unrealistic to think if this goes their way tonight, the Warriors could be the favorites in the West next year.
Well, I think they could automatically switch up the tenor and the feel of their roster because of the young guys, right? Like you got Wiseman and you have these two phenomenal picks potentially, and you can move them and you can get actual legitimate NBA players for them. And to get back to Minnesota, again, and I hate to be the defense, hard-nosed floor-birds guy here, but how the hell is Minnesota supposed to put together a good team with, at the point of attack, Russell's horrible at defense. We know that. And Karl Towns has been just as bad at the most important defensive position on the floor. And I don't think D'Angelo Russell is the type of offensive player that turns them into some type of juggernaut just because he's there. I just think, again, the idea that you would have brought this dude in just because Cat wanted you to, and because he played 2 months of good ball in Brooklyn and made it as an all-star injury reserve, and we get to call him an all-star now. I mean, Minnesota, dude, holy moly.
Well, it's a great example of when you have bad leadership at the top.
It's tough.
In basketball, it's no coincidence. Like, hey, guess who's in the lottery again? It's Sacramento. Guess who's here again? It's Orlando. These are teams that we see over and over again. I think the thing with Minnesota, I don't want to defend Towns. I'm not a huge fan. But when you see this playoffs has been kind of the death of the quote unquote good stats, bad team guys with, the KOC smiling now, where Booker and Trae Young, where we just look at them like, great, they're putting up stats. Their team's not winning. But then all of a sudden they had the right guys around them and their team started winning. And KOC, why can't Towns be in the same situation as Booker and Trae?
I think Towns can be. Absolutely. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is just an absolutely brilliant offensive player. He's not just one of the best shooting bigs. He's a great shooter, period, regardless of position. You can run him off screens and handoffs. He can take guys off the dribble. He can post up. He can do it all on offense. Defensively, I thought this year he made some progress, playing a little bit on the wing position, playing not having to be that rim protector in that role. And maybe for Minnesota, that's the format moving forward. If they do get lucky on draft night and they're able to draft an Evan Mobley who can take on more of that rim protection, I think suddenly the conversation about Cat's defense could change. But with that said, to Waz's point, D'Lo at the top of that defense struggles. Anthony Edwards still needs to improve and play at the level that his body looks like he can, strong and versatile. So they have the potential to be a solid defense, but this is a team that if they build this out the right way, they're going to have to get by with solid defense and amazing offense. They're going to be that type of team with that type of flavor.
Well,
and I think about James Harden in Houston, right? And because we talk about actually complementing your quote unquote franchise guys with players that fit into whatever their deficiencies might be, right? Daryl Morey was like, look, James Harden doesn't like playing defense. We need a guard like Patrick Beverley who can't handle the ball, but he'll guard whoever you want, and he's developed an outside shot. We need big men like Clint Capella who don't mind planting somebody on the screen, creating that vertical spacing to suck into defense. James Harden is a generational playmaker, passer, and he sprays it out to the corners. Okay, James Harden is tired of taking on that burden as the prime initiator. Let's get Chris Paul in here. You see them win 64 games. It's there's a plan to what the hell they're doing. Okay? Yeah. What the hell has Minnesota's plan been with Karl Anthony Towns? You can't tell me it's D'Angelo Russell. That don't make no damn sense.
And now you have Edwards, who is
I like
give
Edwards.
me the ball. I like Edwards too, but he's another one who's like, give me the ball and I'm going to do some stuff. So KOC, if they end up getting this draft pick, which they would have, it would have to be 1, 2, or 3. Probably not looking for a scorer who's just quickly. And then I'll ask you the same thing, Kyle. Perfect guy in the draft for Minnesota.
Evan Mobley, he can offer the rim protection that could help complement Karl Anthony Towns, as well as being a guy who has some skill on the offensive end. He can pass a little bit, shoot a little bit for you, with the upside to possibly down the line be one of the primary guys. So I love what his baseline could be next to Cat, and then his upside could be one of the best front court duos in the entire league. And Kyle, I think we've talked a lot about Mobley on the Ringer NBA show, and I mean, you and I both really love him, it seems.
I like it too.
Charks loves him too. Charks texted me. I remember he hadn't seen Mobley yet, and he was like, "Tell me about him," and I just kind of said some things. And he texted me back like not long after watching him and was like, "He's special." So I mean, in a very like sober, like serious way. Which Chark, I took it. I trust Charks' opinion a lot, and I think that I agree though too. I think that positionally he is very clever, and if you watch the way that he plays. He doesn't have to be like a heavy volume offensive guy. He wasn't for USC. There were times where he would just sort of blend in and kind of play whatever role. Really good passer. Those two guys together, I think, are really interesting. For me, I think that they need as much culture shift as possible. And I think that if they can get him, I think that Jalen Suggs would be a fantastic fit for them too, like to play. And then I also think that that could create expendability, which is something that I think could happen for a few teams in this draft. I really like Suggs or Mobley with them. If you can get CADE, obviously get CADE, but I think either of those guys fit too. I don't know that Jalen Green in that range would be good for them. The Minnesota would be one of those teams that I don't think should prioritize Green. I would go Suggs over Green if I were Minnesota.
Well, I forgot to mention there's a third variable for this lottery. The first one is Houston. Top 4, they keep it. If it goes to 5, they have to swap it for 18. Second one is Minnesota. Top 3, they keep it, 28% chance. Golden State has a 72% chance to get this pick, which is pretty nice if you're Golden State. And then the third one was Chicago. It's the number 8 pick. If it pops up to top 4, they keep it. If it does not pop up to top 4, Kevin Clark's Orlando Magic will be getting the pick. And it is an 80% chance for the Orlando Magic to get that pick. On top of, they gave up Wendell Carter. There's another pick in that trade too, right? Wasn't there another first rounder beyond Wendell Carter?
Yeah, there was. I think a 2023.
future one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that too much to give up for Vooch, who didn't even get you to the playoffs?
Of course it is. I mean, they made that trade at the deadline, and everybody was essentially convinced that they would find themselves in the playoffs somehow, and it didn't end up working because Vucevic was Vucevic, right? Like, he's a nice offensive player. I don't know that he changes your life in that way because, again, he's a one-dimensional guy, and he's made strides on the defensive end, but he is what he is. I do want to go back to what KOC was saying about them drafting a rim protector next to Karl Anthony Towns. My man, Stephen Jones Jr. talked about recently working with Brook Lopez in Brooklyn and how they never thought he would ever get to the level of the defensive player he showed himself to be right now. And we've seen it countless times with different bigs, whether it be even somebody like Miles Turner, who I mentioned before, who was horrible at defense. I just want to understand how it can be that we need to suck up to Karl Anthony Towns, but we also need to draft people that are better than him at defense. Like, it can't be both, right? Like,
I love this lane for you, Waz. I think this is strong. Why do we keep building around Karl Anthony Towns when he can't win no matter who we have?
If we can't ask him to be the defensive anchor, like, you want all of these concessions made, you got to be the player that's worth those concessions. So if we can't ask you to get to the level of Brook freaking Lopez, bro, why are we kissing your ass? I don't understand that.
When was the last time we had a guy who was an offensive one and a defensive one on a title level team that was a center? When was the last time?
James.
Small ball five. Yeah. I mean, Shaq.
Right.
I guess in an Embiid, but
I mean, I would have said Davis last year. Davis was a 1B offensively and a 1AAA plus defensively for the Lakers.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not a super common thing. I don't think that it's ridiculous. I guess just, I don't know. Can Mobley space? Where does Mobley, how do they fit on the floor? I think that's something that they would have to explore and work at. But I think that he would fit the personalities that are a little more score first on that roster. A little bit is putting it mildly with Edwards and D'Lo. But yeah.
What's audible quick to just what this lottery looks like for the people that haven't followed it. I hope you're checking out. You can have it up right now as you're watching the lottery and listen to us. NBA draft.theringer.com. KOC's latest mock draft is up there, his rankings, all that stuff. KOC, you have a top 2 and then a next 3 and then a really big tier after that. Top 2, Cade Cunningham of Mobley, then Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Kuminga, and then another slight drop, and then it goes 6 to 20 range. Is that correct? 3 tiers?
Yeah, I mean, like after 6, it's a really a matter of taste where that next tier stops. I mean, maybe it's more like 6 to 11 or 12, something like that. But the draft does flatten out. And like a lot of the players after that top 5, including Kuminga at 5, like he could arguably be in that tier below Suggs and Green. A lot of guys who have clear potential, serious skills, like specific skills, like shooters like Kispert, or athletic guys like Keon Johnson, but guys with flaws too that could really hold them back from reaching their potential. But the top 2, Cunningham and Mobley, I mean, like what we're talking about here with bigs and like who fits where. Mobley can fit anywhere. Cunningham can fit anywhere. There's no fit issues with any of those guys with the
Suggs
top 2
can
picks.
too.
Suggs can
absolutely
too.
can fit anywhere.
Yep, no doubt about it.
So we have Houston, Detroit, Orlando, OKC, Cleveland as our top 5. I like a couple of the players. I really like Cunningham, and I like Suggs, and I like Mosley. And then you look at the teams that could potentially go to it, and then like Orlando and Detroit just makes me sad. You're going there, it's like, cool. We're gonna suck for 3 years.
You have to play with Killian Hayes though, Bill.
Oh, your guy Killian, yeah. Cleveland's, I don't know what Cleveland's identity is. It's like the backcourt's a little strange. I don't know what's going on with Kevin Love.
That's the identity. Garland and Sexton are supposed to be amazing. That's what Cleveland fans were yelling at us about early on last season. It's fizzled
and then we
out.
stopped listening.
Yeah.
And then
I'm a big Larry Nance Jr. fan though.
We know.
Right, but they're probably going to trade him, right, this summer,
Yeah.
you would think. Houston's got the best chance to get the number 1 pick, and God only knows what happens with them. And then, OKC, they have 38 picks, and they're in the middle of some rebuilding project that I can't even figure out anymore. I thought the Kemba trade was a little confusing. I like SGA. Poku at least deserves another year to kick the tires on his potential. They had a lot of good younger random dudes that I thought were pretty enticing as rotation guys, but I have no idea how long their rebuilding thing is going to be. All right, the Mark Tatum is up there, and we're about to do the lottery. We have 14th pick. Wait a second. 14th pick went to the Indiana Pacers. Oh no, that's 13th pick. My bad.
Okay, all right.
14 to Warriors, 13 Indiana, 12 San Antonio. So we're going chalk so far.
Okay.
The 11th pick should be Charlotte, unless they rigged it for MJ because they owed him more royalties in the last dance. Nope. 11th is Charlotte. We're still chalk. 10th, New Orleans. Can New Orleans get another break here? I like how Tatum is able to talk while smiling. I think that's a great quality. Nope. New Orleans is 10. So then Sacramento is 9 here, if this goes right. And then coming up after that would be our first big thing. Sacramento 9. Okay. So 8. If this is Chicago, it goes to Orlando. If it's not Chicago, that means Chicago moved up top 4. First kind of exciting moment here. It's Orlando.
Ooh.
So Orlando gets the 8th pick, Waz.
Toronto next.
You did not like that trade. 7th pick should be Toronto. This is another one I feel like they could rig. Toronto getting the number 1 pick wouldn't be a bad thing. Not that they rigged the lottery.
To make up for the
Golden State from Minnesota.
Wow. So Toronto.
So Toronto moves up. Golden
Wow.
State ends up getting the 7th pick. So we got 2 things answered there. All right. So Toronto we know is in the top 4, and we know Golden State is the 7th pick. That's great for them.
So Minnesota has no first-round pick this year.
Nope. 6th pick goes to OKC, which means that means Cleveland moved up too, right? So Cleveland and Toronto have moved up.
Brutal for Minnesota.
They just showed Kobe Altman. It looks like he just took melatonin. That's 5th pick coming up. This should be that's Orlando. Wow. So OKC moved up. So we had OKC,
Pray for
Cleveland.
Presti gets to be a genius again.
So wait, the only one that I'm confused. Wait, did OKC get that pick from Houston or for OKC? I'm confused.
It would probably help if we could listen to the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm not watching on TV.
There's Nazi Muhammad.
Well, they're showing Detroit, so Detroit's still in it. And I think Houston probably stayed in it. So I think
Houston's still in it?
OKC,
Okay.
So that was our, Houston's in it. So that was our worst case scenario if you're OKC.
Guys,
You drop down to 5.
Can I share a text with you that I just received from one of my good friends who's a Knicks fan?
Yeah.
He said, tonight is usually my Super Bowl.
I was gonna say we need to celebrate a few teams that aren't here tonight that usually are. The Suns, the Wizards, the Knicks, the Hawks.
Oh, man.
Not present tonight. Good for
All
them.
right. So we have Toronto, Cleveland, Detroit, and Houston
Ooh,
as our top 4.
Toronto getting rewarded for spending the whole year in Tampa Bay. Well deserved, in all seriousness.
Yeah, I gotta say,
Yeah.
that's why I joked that I thought they could rig the lottery for them because, first of all, I thought they did it. They didn't tank until the tail end, but they kind of had some nobility to what they did. They had to play a year in Florida. I don't know.
I mean, I'll tell you
I'm
what,
okay with that.
with Toronto, if they bring back Kyle Lowry and if they nail this pick, like they could significantly be right back in that race. You know, maybe not a favorite for the championship, but they could be right back in the thick of the playoffs if they nail this pick. If they get a
can they
Cunningham
do
or
that?
Mobley.
Can Masai do that for a 3rd year in a row? It doesn't seem like his nature, right? This sort of tread water type of team. And they overachieved last season. They damn near got to the conference finals. They gave Boston all they could handle in the 2nd round. This year kind of blew up on them because of injuries and the sort of discombobulated nature of the season. Like, can you go into the season again with this tread water type of situation after you tasted the championship in 2019, KOC?
I think with Masai Ujiri, he said something back at the Sloan conference back in like 2015 or 2016 before trading DeRozan. And he's like, my philosophy, I'm paraphrasing here, has always been about developing young guys while also competing to win. So I think Masai Ujiri has always tried to win and tread water, as you're saying, while also having youth on the team. And we're seeing some of those young players, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet,
Love
Pascal
OG.
Siakam, who has blossomed, right? And so if they get a number 1 pick, like let's just say if they got Cade Cunningham or got Evan Mobley, I mean, that could really accelerate things quickly. And they want to become contenders. But I think they would be continuing to do what they always do. But it would really be a matter of, does he want to continue doing that? Or would he get rid of the older guys, and then just go all young, all youth? Because that makes like a heck of a lot of sense too, to do that.
Can I ask you, if you're Cade Cunningham, how hard you're rooting for Toronto right now versus the other options are Cleveland, Detroit, and Houston? Wow. I'm sorry. I'm rooting for Toronto if I'm Cade Cunningham. I could be good right away.
I think Houston is up there too, though, because, Houston too. Let's face it, black NBA players, they're really into that city. I think this is like, Houston is like a 2 Americas type of thing. Like where people Houston's cool. A bunch of people I know who are non-black have been to Houston. It's like, it's a cool city. Like it's big, it's decent food options. It's not bad. And then like black people go and they're just like, this is the most amazing place I've ever been to in my life. So, I think that's always got to be a consideration. Houston is like the black Boston. You know what I mean? Like white guys in Boston is like, this city's amazing, right? And I think Houston sort of has that dynamic.
Jalen always used to tell me that when we worked together, but he always said the same thing about Toronto. He said Toronto was amazing for black
Great
athletes.
cities,
Yeah.
Toronto makes the most sense basketball wise. I mean,
yes, no question.
Like it's going to be that he's going to be playing in a winning environment immediately.
Well, if they get 1 or 2, Toronto's going to be good next year. Then you would have to rethink about, do we just bring back Lowry and do we actually try to make a real run at this? Free agent money. KOC seems dubious.
No, I mean, what's on my mind is which of these teams is most likely to try to trade the pick for like a Ben Simmons or a Bradley Beal or CJ McCollum, like whoever might become available. And Toronto, I'm suspicious of in that regard.
To trade the pick.
Yeah, I mean, they could go that way too. I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do, but it's just something on my mind with the guys out there potentially available, like a Simmons or a Beal.
Waz, do you think Cleveland's gotten enough top 5 picks, or should we just give them like 5 more over the next 7 years? Like how many top 4 lottery picks can we give them, do you think? I think this is like 7th or 8th for them.
I think that franchise has been completely useless, but for the fact that LeBron James grew up 45 minutes away from the city.
And got drafted by them miraculously.
That's it. And came back because he felt bad that he had all achieved a lot of success without them, came back to save them. They've done nothing as a franchise besides LeBron, nothing. And I guess, the Terrell Brandon years, shouts to Bob Sora.
Oh, here we go. So our 4 reps are Hakeem Olajuwon, who looks very confident, Ben Wallace, who can't believe he's in the Hall of Fame, Kobe Altman, who just took 7 melatonins, and Fred VanVleet, who's hoping it's not Cade Cunningham. It's not going to be. Toronto's 4th.
Ooh,
Oh, baby.
That's still good for them, though. That's Suggs range. 3rd is Cleveland.
Green is interesting there too. So is Kuminga.
So we have Houston and Detroit left. Those were our top 2. Oh, Houston 2.
wow.
Oh, your boy Killian Hayes is in trouble,
Wow.
KOC. Detroit
this is
gets the
good.
first pick.
This is great. Wonderful.
This is
I
going
love
to be
it.
interesting.
I
This really
love it.
is. The Pistons are going to be kind of interesting. I mean, I
Mm.
think they could be. I mean, defensively, they already have kind of found like a little bit of a momentum, not enormous, but I mean, I think it's interesting. Isaiah Stewart is maybe a backup, we know he's a quality rotation big. Jeremy, Killian and Sadiq Bey and Cade can play together. Like I think that could work. I like that. And
Yeah.
obviously Jeremy Grant having, the best years of his career so far. It's interesting. When's the last time we said that about Detroit? Like
It's a
literally.
win. It's a win-win situation for them, whether they go with Cunningham or if there's an argument to be made for Mobley, because Mobley can fit with anybody. He can fit with Stewart. He can fit with Grant. Cunningham can play with or without the ball. So if you want to build a roster with multiple ball handlers, which I believe is their vision, and that's what they want to do. And Killian Hayes may not be the primary guy. Cade Cunningham might be, but Hayes in a role where he can defend and make smart passes off the bounce. It's really about his development as a spot-up shooter. But with Cade Cunningham, if he's the guy they go with at the number 1 pick, I think he's the type of guy who can help a team really compete right away.
He's a floor raiser.
No doubt about it. Like he makes guys around him better. And I'm excited to see what he can do playing with the best talent he's ever had. Cause you get a downhill guy, and Isaiah Stewart, who can be, a rim runner for you. You have other guys who can handle the ball, Grant, who can handle some scoring for you. I think it's a really great situation for Cunningham to go into, assuming he's the pick.
So let's do winners and losers quick. Our top 8: Detroit, Houston, Cleveland, Toronto, Orlando, OKC, Golden State, and then Orlando again. So Chicago and Minnesota, no first-round picks for them. That's tough. OKC goes into this lottery thinking we have a chance to get 2 top 5 picks. They drop to number 6. Brutal. And then Toronto is a winner and a loser because there's a moment there where they think they have a chance for the top 2 picks. They still get 4, which is awesome. But they move up from 7 to 4. That's not like – it's great. It's not a game changer. So we think potentially Cunningham to Detroit, Mobley to Houston. Almost seems like it would make more sense for those 2 to flip picks.
Mobley with Christian Wood. What do we think about that?
A little lean, not a lot of weight, not a lot of weight in the front court. But I
Waz, do you like anyone? Waz, do you like anyone with Christian Wood?
Do you like anyone, Waz?
What are your Christian Wood thoughts?
No, the Christian Wood thing is funny because, he leaves Detroit and everybody's kind of like, well, clearly Detroit knows something that we don't, because why do you just let this guy leave for this little bit of money? And he comes out and he kills it, right? And so he becomes this kind of overachiever. That's how we view him type of guy now. But, I'm interested to see what he does when he comes back next year, because we always go through this cycle with young guys where it's like, think of Jason Tatum after his rookie year. It's like, all right, he's the next Larry Bird. Then he underachieves his second year because people expect growth in NBA young players to be completely linear. They're like, maybe he's not that great anymore. Is he a bust? And then, of course, he comes back and he's steadily improving all the time, right? I love to see what Christian Wood comes back and he does. And who I think won is Orlando, because they just sucked at the draft, quite frankly. Like, they've had nothing but high lottery picks.
KOC's right now. Here. Be careful. He's right here. Mo Bamba's last fan is right here looking at you.
They've stunk it up when it comes to drafting. And so they get 2 bites at the apple. Isaacs is coming off of a bad injury. Mo Bamba is still not proven a single credible NBA skill yet. Like not one that you can say, all right, this is what he's gonna do good in the NBA.
Be nice, Waz.
I'm a Cole Anthony guy as a former CHSA New York City Catholic School League guy, so I love Cole Anthony. But I'm happy for them because they need as many bites at the apple as possible.
I mean, it's a tough place for them to fall, honestly, because they just need playmaking and like on court feel. That's what they need more than anything, and they've needed it for years. And it's in this draft, that's a tough spot to fall. I actually think Green would have been good for them. I think, but I don't know if I want to reach and take somebody like Davion Mitchell there. I don't know. KOC, what do you think? Where can they get the value they're looking for there?
I think you guys are missing the option here, and that's a trade up. Because if you're looking at Cleveland at number 3, they already have Sexton and Garland. Are they really a team for Suggs? Are they really a team for Green? Or are they a team that's like, oh yeah, let's trade down and get 2 picks instead of 1, because then Orlando could get their guy in Jalen Suggs at 3, and Cleveland could get a big wing. They could get a shooter.
So you're saying 5 and 8 for 3 and something else?
Yeah, something like that. That's what I'm thinking about for sure. I'm very much into it. Cleveland, I don't love at the number 3 spot, but I'll tell you what I do love: the fact that they are in a prime position to make a deal. And I think that is something we're going to hear a lot about in the coming weeks and months.
So the Detroit Pistons, this is the first time they will have the number 1 pick in the draft since 1970.
Wow.
They had 1967, they had the first pick. They took Jimmy Walker, Jalen's dad. Then in 1970, they took Bob Lanier, Hall of Famer. They took Isaiah Thomas with the 2nd pick in 1981. They took Grant Hill with the 3rd pick in 1994. And since then, they have not even come close to picking this high, except for the immortal, the one and only, Darko Milicic in 2003. Cade to Detroit, I feel like is bad for your guy Killian. I think we see Killian on a Paris, like a B-level Paris team, maybe in 3 years. KOC.
I think it's good for him. Honestly, dude.
Big competition. Okay.
No, I think they could play together. Like,
you do. Make the case. Let's hear it.
KOC said something earlier where he said, if you're a roster that's looking to have multiple ball handlers, let me just tell you, if you're an NBA roster and you're not thinking we need multiple ball handlers, you should just sell your team because you're an idiot. Because that's the way basketball is right now. Everybody needs to get more playmaking and creation on the floor as much as humanly possible. And like Detroit, I think that sort of the thing that people were knocking, the people who saw upside in Killian Hayes said this is a guy that eventually could be the engine of an offense, hypothetically, heavy hypothetically. I think this will take pressure off of him and maybe allow him to come along at a pace that is more realistic for him potentially. But I also think it's going to put him in a position to Cade is a plug and play floor raiser type player that is going to spoon feed him looks where he wants them. So I think it's good. I like it.
No doubt about it.
I think that's a good point. You think like the Atlanta, if I'm any bad team, I'm studying Atlanta and being like, all right, well, how the fuck did this happen? This team is now in the Eastern Finals. What is going on? They have a really talented point guard and then a bunch of shooters. And basically, if you study Atlanta long enough, you realize like, oh, their top 7 can all create their own shot. So maybe that's our path. So Detroit now, assuming Hayes isn't a bust, and I actually like some of the stuff I saw from them last year. You got those 2. Jeremy Grant. Now I have 3 guys, and you're just kind of climbing your way toward having the 7 guys. But maybe that's the way to think now. I wonder, like with Golden State, with the Wiseman piece of this, and now they have the 7th pick. Wise, what am I getting for Wiseman in the 7th pick?
I mean,
I'm not getting Bradley Beal.
People were pretty low on Wiseman towards the end of the season. His confidence was kind of shot. The guy couldn't catch a freaking pass on the low block to save his freaking life. Yeah. And so I these guys are so young. I think you can easily get people still excited about a Wiseman and this pick. Ben Simmons is.
What are you going to do with Draymond?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they try to flip this pick or keep it, because at that 7 spot, a Davion Mitchell from Baylor, even though he measured only at 6 foot, he plays bigger than he is. His defense that he could bring to that bench unit, the shooting, the ability to potentially sometime down the line be somebody who creates offense for you while developing behind Stephen Curry. This was the appeal for them last year with LaMelo. Not a lot of pressure. He can learn behind these guys. I mean, whether it's Davion Mitchell or somebody else up there, even a Keon Johnson at the wing spot from Tennessee, there's some appealing guys who can play a little bit now and then pop later. So this isn't a loss necessarily for Golden State.
But KOC, I don't like that in the sense of that, like this whole in-between game of we're trying to win now and we're also trying to develop talent. You sort of sometimes run into a conflict of interest, and you saw with Wiseman where they yanking him in and out of the lineup, and it's like, all right, are we developing this guy for the future, or are we killing his trade value because he's so damn bad on a team that's trying to win, right? Like it becomes this sort of push and pull. I think they need to get off of these young assets as soon as possible and get back to the business of maximizing your greatest player in franchise history's extended prime. They need to move off of these young kids because they don't help you win in the now. And Steph Curry, you need to be trying to win right now with him.
Here's what I would do. I would take Mitchell 7. I think he's the perfect warrior for the team I watched last year that I think they're going to gravitate to. Here's the thing with Wiseman. Just watching how much better Ayton has gotten in the last 3 months and watching the way he was able to be such an asset in game 1 of the Clipper series, that game 2 is about to happen. But, you could argue he's the more valuable asset than Rudy Gobert, which I did argue on Sunday night. I just would rather have Ayton. I'd rather have a mobile big who you could throw him the ball from 5 feet away and he could turn around and do a jump hook. His hands are around the rim and can come out on shooters. KOC, couldn't Wiseman be that? Like, is it far-fetched to think he could be that a year and a half from now?
I wouldn't say it's far-fetched, but I think Ayton, his feel was higher coming out of Arizona. Like Ayton is
older too.
Yeah, and he's always had an ability to contest and alter shots around the rim without fouling. With James Wiseman, the feel for the game on the offensive end is not as high. And like that's a good thing and a bad thing for him to be with the Golden State Warriors. Because to your point was, that's the tough part with Wiseman. He wasn't ready to do like the fast, decision-making, the passing immediately, and he may never be. But like the benefit of having a guy like that is the upside to be that Ayton style player. I think with them, they do have to really be careful here with not taking too much of a project. I don't love the idea of a Keon Johnson, a Davion Mitchell. I mean, at his age, 22 years old, a redshirt junior coming out of Baylor, he's somebody who can help right away, but still provide upside down the line. Like if they don't trade the pick, that's the way they have to be looking at the situation here.
And he's fucking tough too.
Oh yeah.
He will be an elite defender, I think, on the perimeter. Hey Kyle, if Wiseman was in this draft, what pick would he go?
Ooh. Oh gosh. I'd say 5. Somewhere in there.
5.
I mean, I think people I'm not saying like big board here. I'm just saying if I was guessing, I mean, what would be different a year later? I mean, if he had played the exact same college season and we were looking at it again.
KOC, where do you have him?
If it's after what we saw with the Warriors as
Wiseman's
a rookie,
in the draft. They've decided he's back in the draft.
No.
That's not how it works.
No. We know what he did as a rookie. Right now he's back in the draft. They made a new rule. He got to declare.
Then he's not going top 10.
No.
Wow.
Not going top 10.
Wow.
10 is extreme. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe not top 7 or 8, but
wow.
I don't think he'd go above Kuminga. I'm not so sure he'd go above even Mitchell, depending on like what those team preferences are, but not top 7 or 8, maybe not top 10.
Oof. This is bad for the Wiseman rookie cards.
I mean,
the reason I brought it up, I was trying to figure out, could they trade him like straight up for the 3rd pick? Could they trade him straight up for the 4th pick?
Well, that's what I'm thinking here. Like if you're the Pelicans with the 10th pick, are you trading that for James Wiseman to pair Wiseman with Zion? I'm not so sure. With the Kings at number 9, maybe the Kings would take him. The Kings could make sense at number 9. Orlando at 8. I'm not sure with the amount of bigs that they have right there. So maybe number 9 at Sacramento.
What about OKC at 6?
That would make a little bit more sense considering that team is kind of rudderless and it's just like I was about to call him Sam Hinkie.
Might as well now, was. Might as well.
Same Hickey Presti.
Because Sam Presti is kind of like, yo, we're taking as many bites at the apple, or we hope to be the next disgruntled superstar destination. You know, I'd be careful about this asset orgy that we're doing with the OKC Thunder too, because I remember when that Brooklyn trade happened for Boston, it was like assets. And then what does it turn into? Brad Stevens getting forced out as coach, although he got promoted. And, you know, Brooklyn's a better team now than you.
They went to 3 out of 4 Eastern Conference Finals, and they have 2 of the best players under 25 years old.
Yeah,
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Thank you, KOC.
They got their coach. They got their coach fired.
Here's the thing. I've been living in Boston this whole past year, and like it was a nightmare season for the Celtics, but they still have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Period.
Simmons, Orlando. Orlando has the 5th pick and the 8th pick, which in my mind means they have a pick to spare. Is the 5th pick for Ben Simmons a ridiculous trade?
For Orlando,
Probably for Philly. That's
for Philly. It is.
Trade.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, maybe
Ben
if they add
Simmons-
Mo Bamba into that.
I would say Ben Simmons in Orlando. There's dissonance there. I mean, you assume Jonathan Isaac gets back and I don't know if that's the place for him.
The reason
Like,
I bring that up is if I'm Philly and I don't like any of the possibilities I have, and Orlando's like, we will take Ben Simmons. He's a huge asset. We'll take his contract. We'll trade you the 5th pick. We can actually absorb his contract because I think they're way under the cap. And then if you're Philly, you get rid of the contract, you get a huge trade exception, you have a 5th pick, and then you have the ability to use that 5th pick to go get what you want.
How about
So it's almost like a 2-step trade.
How about 5 and 8?
5 and 8 for Simmons.
Yeah.
So it'd have to almost be Simmons.
Is that not enough?
That feels like too much.
It's kind of hard to figure out Ben Simmons' value, isn't it?
I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's too much because Ben Simmons has already made 3 All-Star games, right? Like Ben Simmons is still going to be a great defensive commodity. Theoretically, he's some great playmaker. I keep hearing people talk about Ben Simmons' playmaking. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll see at the next destination if this bears out. They keep saying the fit is clunky and he needs to play around more spacing and shooting, which doesn't exist in Orlando and never has. But like we'll see, right? But like Ben Simmons is a 3-time All-Star. You know, he's gonna make all defensive teams going forward. 5 and 8, it probably isn't even enough for him, if we're being honest, for the production that he's going to give you. And, you know, specifically if you are...
That's an amazing trade for Philly. I would do that right now if I was Philly. If I get 5 and 8 for Ben Simmons, I'm doing it.
But they want to win. Like, you get 2 rookies, I guess. If you want to flip those picks into something
that's what I mean.
Are going to be valuable. But
yeah, assets. Well, they're not going to win with Ben Simmons. They can't play him in the last 6 minutes of a playoff game. I think part of the problem when people evaluate Simmons is there's 2 Ben Simmonses, right? There is a fast-paced, up-and-down game Ben Simmons, which he looks awesome in. And then there's what happens in the playoffs when it slows down and he's dribbling over half court, hands it to somebody and kind of wanders over into the corner and isn't seen again. And I didn't even know this when we did the podcast on Sunday, but the stat of the 3 shots in 7 fourth quarters, 3 shots total,
unreal,
is one of the most damning, terrible stats of all time. And it actually made me feel way worse about Doc Rivers. I was trying not to blame Doc Rivers too much, but man, you look back at that series now and you think like you have to tell that guy after game 5, if you don't shoot, I'm not going to play you in the last 9 minutes. I just can't. I can't afford to have you out there if we're going 4 on 5. Like, sorry, I know you make $30 million a year. I know you're represented by Clutch. We're trying to win the title. You can't do it. So he didn't, and I think that's how it got them in the conundrum. But 5 and 8 for Simmons and Maxey. Starting to get a little more fair.
If I'm Philly, I honestly want a bit more there. I mean, like I've been the dude for 5 years now saying Ben Simmons shoots with the wrong hand and needs to switch. But you got to give it to the guy for turning into the defensive player that he has, like Waz said. And the playmaking in the open court is sensational. In the half court, if he has the right pieces around him, I think there's a lot of ways you can get him going. Like you mentioned earlier before the lottery happened, was that he's not Draymond Green on defense. He's not defending like a Jokic down low. And you're right about that. But on offense, I really believe Simmons can be a supercharged version of Draymond Green, screening and rolling and dunking and making plays off the dribble for teammates. Like he's got to have a point guard who can do that for him. So if that happens in Philly, wonderful. If it happens somewhere else, I hope we see him in that role. And that's regardless of whether or not he ever switches hands or figures out how to become an average shooter. If that alone happens, I really think it would add some value to Ben Simmons in the half court and be able to activate some of that playmaking that right now just doesn't exist because he's just standing in the corner doing nothing.
Would Portland trade McCollum for 5 and 8? They would.
Hell yeah.
Right. So we're trying to trade Simmons for McCollum. So then why isn't Simmons worth 5? Like I'm trying to do a thought process.
Well, because a lot of people would say that McCollum is nowhere near enough compensation for Ben Simmons. Because McCollum is a very limited player in his own when you consider his size in the backcourt. And he scores. Yes, he's a great scorer, but he's not really proficient at anything else. Not to say that the type of scoring that he provides
29.
for you. And he's 29. Not to say that he would have obviously helped them way more than Ben Simmons did in this Hawks series. That
Yes.
goes without saying. But these players happen within a context, right? Like these players don't exist in a vacuum. So Ben Simmons, yes, in this context, he looked like a pumpkin. But I think in another context, he could look like somebody who actually matters in this league again, because he has in the past. Like when times when Joel didn't play.
How about, I know Houston and Philly will never trade with each other, but Ben Simmons for the 2 pick would be interesting too. Where Philly gets Mobley back, Houston gets a star, the whole thing. I wouldn't do that if I was Houston.
I wouldn't either.
Just for the record. I would, to me, Mobley and Cunningham, I'm not moving off either.
Well, they didn't want Ben Simmons for a dude who was partying with rappers while he was supposed to be at training camp.
I know. But I never knew if they didn't want
there anymore.
I felt like they just didn't want to trade Harden to Philly. They didn't want to give him
so
that. They didn't want to
dumb
give
if that's
Daryl
the
that. And they kind of moved it the other way. So Orlando 5-8, they get to rebuild. OKC will stay at 6. And then, so Toronto would be the only possible trade maybe with the 4 pick if they wanted to get good right away. I don't know what would be a Toronto trade with the 4 pick, KOC?
I mean, maybe if it's not Simmons, maybe we're talking about if Beal becomes available and you're putting more on the table with that pick, then we're talking, another young player in there. But
wouldn't that have to be Beal and Siakam, which Beal's and Siakam in the 4, and then it's like Beal's in the same crappy situation he was in.
It's tough there. And like, again, like I've mentioned the trade down idea. I love trade down so much. I think OKC, they're another trade up candidate here. They're at number 6. They have 18. They have what is it? 36 first round picks for Sam Hinkie Presti was, right? So, I mean, OKC can put together as many picks as they want to and be like, hey, we'd love to move up to number 3 or maybe even number 2. Like, I don't see why not.
Well, that would be interesting for Cleveland, right? If they could just drop from 3 to 6.
Oh yeah.
And they get some Sam Presti treasure chest stuff. That could work. I'm with you. Cleveland at 3. I don't see them staying there for some reason.
There are better fits for Cleveland at 6. There was one earlier. There was a possible trade situation that I thought could be interesting. Do you think Charlotte could use the glut of like big forwards, big defensive forwards in this draft, and potentially use that pick to take a forward and then use like say PJ Washington to address some of their needs that they have to sort of move them along?
Oh, like a player trade. I'm into that.
Yeah. Because I mean, there are some guys like, defensive guys like Garuba, and then obviously my guy Barnes. Kuminga's obviously not going to fall back there, but I mean, just spitballing here. I think that they could address some of their needs if they flip that. I don't know.
Was the multiple people in the chat are suggesting Buddy Hield the number 9 for Simmons? No,
I need more.
Was just shaking his head sadly.
No, I need more because again, once I open the Simmons thing up to a bidding war, I'm getting more than that.
Yeah,
100% and getting more than that, because at the end of the day, this is a talent acquisition business, and people are talking tough. and spreading all kinds of negative chatter about Simmons right now. And I think it's in teams' best interest to be doing that in the media behind the scenes. Like, oh, no way, I'd trade for him now and blah, blah, blah. That's like setting the market for a guy that everybody understands is immensely talented. And teams, no matter what they say, they're going to go with talent every single time. So I think Buddy Hield, a guy who the Kings kind of don't even want anymore. They feel like they overpaid for him. I don't think he's enough. Although, again, another guy who shoots it, and I think it would help Philadelphia. I think Daryl Morey is going to want more than that.
I think
McCollum
and Buddy both aren't table setters. I think that you would run into the same kind of thing you have with Seth. You need people that lean playmaking more. I was thinking
now if they find a way to get Kyle Lowry in there, like all of this McConnell stuff and Buddy Hield stuff, that starts to make all the more sense because you have an adult in the room orchestrating an offense for you, and I'm just, I'm one of the biggest Kyle Lowry fans out there.
Couple of people in the green room chat are saying Presti's going to go all in for CADE, which would require trading up to the number one pick.
That would be fascinating. I wonder
So what
the
does that
price
look
would
like?
be.
So basically telling Detroit, we'll flip you 6 for 1, and we'll also give you blank, 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 and blank. And OKC, like the whole thing is, what's the point of having all these picks? Like you can't. The Celtics were in, the very, very poor man situation of this, where they had all these picks from like 12 to 22, and just year after year, 2-3 guys, and it's like, this sucks. Like I would much rather have Austin Rivers than
Bill. I wish we could live in a world where OKC had to make all of these picks. I wish that was possible. I freaking wish it was possible.
So they could basically trade for 150 cents on the dollar and just overwhelm Detroit with like some crazy offer. And if you're Detroit, you're still picking 6th.
What if it's not 6? What if it's a 3-way trade and you have Detroit move to 3 for Cleveland's spot, and then Cleveland moves down to the 6th spot? That way at 3, Detroit could still get Jalen Suggs, still get their playmaker to pair with Killian Hayes.
Just make it rain picks.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of picks going everywhere.
Wait, well, let's talk this out. I like this. So OKC has to flip spots with Cleveland, 6 and 3.
Yeah.
And they throw in something else good. They give them the 18th pick. They give them one of their future firsts. There you go. Knock yourself out with that. Now they're at 3, and then they can really put the hard press on Detroit. Does it matter the CADE Cunningham where he went to college if you're OKC? Like, I never understand with some parts of the country. It doesn't, right?
Oh, it shouldn't.
It might matter.
Those fans show up anyway. Like the
matter
OKC fans are going.
It might matter to the people in the prairie, Bill. I've been told that they have different value sets than the rest of us do. So that might matter to those folks down in prairie country in Oklahoma.
I don't know. It's certainly not a bad thing.
It's hokey as hell. Get the hell out of here.
It might matter to the fans, but it shouldn't matter to the front office.
It shouldn't matter at all.
No, when you get a talent like that, you take it.
No
That's
doubt.
why I just don't think you make all these moves to get an opportunity to take a player like CADE, who can be an all-star. I think he can be an all-NBA type
Well,
guy.
talk me through CADE and Shea.
It works
together as a backcourt. That's pretty nice.
They're going to shoot up the league pass rankings. I can tell you that. I mean, like they can absolutely play together. They balance each other. But that's the thing about CADE is like he fits in these 3-guard lineups. People underrate him too as a defender. Like I think that, and they have enough just kind of like wild, like he's going to make Poku better. I don't know. I think that if they were going to make a trade like KOC suggested, I mean, you could also throw in like Baisley and Teo Maladon. That could be interesting. I personally wouldn't do it though, just ultimately because I think CADE is just such a special floor raising talent. I think that you wait to get players like this. If you're Detroit, why would you pass that up? I wouldn't come off the pick if I were them.
I'm always for just grab the guy, but I do think this is a unique situation with OKC where they could overwhelm somebody and really make them thinking. If you're Detroit, what are your assets? Your assets are Jeremy Grant, maybe Killian Hayes, maybe Isaiah Stewart. What else? What am I missing?
Your own picks.
And your own picks.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
Not much else.
All right. So before we go, Woz, I think we learned over everything else that maybe don't trade D'Angelo Russell Don't trade for D'Angelo.
Yeah.
For D'Angelo Russell with a future top 3 protected pick. That maybe don't do that.
Or maybe don't twist your franchise in knots to accommodate a dude who's never even gotten you an 8th seed ever in his life. Once.
I think we also learned that when your best star quits on you, it's better off trading him and then completely tanking the season.
Yep.
And now if you're Houston, you end up with the 2nd pick in the draft for this weird Harden season, 72 game year. He didn't want to be there anymore. I still didn't like the trade they made, but you could argue, considering they kept the pick.
And it's important to say, Bill, like all the hand wringing we all did about it was nasty what Harden did in the beginning of the season to get himself out of Houston. But like Harden staying there, if they just played hardball and kept him there, and what is happening to the team right now, this is a better outcome for them. Period.
I still think, Kyle, you agree that it's just more fun if Harden got traded to Philly. I think this whole season's more fun.
So much.
Oh my God, I can't imagine. Yeah,
so it's so much more fun.
Yeah, it would solve all their problems, and it would have elevated them. I mean, it'd be hard to pick against them, honestly, if you think about what they would be both ways. Yeah, I wish
maybe it would have
happened.
rejuvenated Ben Simmons. Who knows?
So then they could have had 2 guys hurt instead of 1.
Oh, man, KOC. I thought Woz was the party pooper.
Negative Nancy.
Before we go, we have Hawks Bucks Eastern Conference Finals. Kind of surprising combo. Go ahead, let's hear it, Wes.
Oh, the Hawks are going to the finals. They're going to the finals. They're going to the finals. Like, you guys watched that Bucks offense, the same one that I did, and nobody thought Brooklyn was a competent defensive team all year long until they magically ran into a Bucks playoff offense. Voila, they're competent at defense. And I think the Hawks offense is more dynamic, more sophisticated than what just KD and Harden on one leg could offer as far as what they could do, against the Bucks defense. So I think they're going to get stops. And I think Trae Young is going to carry the day, and they're going to go to the finals because the Bucks half-court offense has been putrid for the whole playoffs.
That would be an unbelievable turn of events. I want to talk myself into it so badly. I won money on Atlanta in round 2. I had a Bucks Hawks parlay. The Bogdanovich piece, I can't wrap my head around. If you're telling me he was healthy, I'd actually be all in on the Hawks upset pick. But not only is he not healthy, it doesn't seem like there's light at the end of the tunnel with that one. And then they lose Hunter too, and it just feels like it's.
But Bill, hold on, Bill. They want to play their nonsense drop coverage all freaking game. Trae Young is the best floater in all of basketball. That shot is going to be wide open for him, basically all series long, because of the way Milwaukee wants to guard everybody, because they insist on playing Brook Lopez 50 minutes a game. I just like the matchup for the Hawks. I really do.
What do you think, KOC?
I think the Bucks are going to win this, but it's definitely going to be competitive to Waz's point. Like, this Hawks team is no joke. The Bogdanovich injury hurts them a lot, and I'd give them a better chance if they had that. But, I think the Bucks are going to win this series maybe in 5 or 6. They just have more overall talent. Giannis can be unbelievable in this matchup. And for the Milwaukee Bucks, I hope we see them make some tweaks to what they're doing on defense. I mean, if it's going to happen, this is a series to do it for sure.
It's like a broken clock with these cats, man.
What do you think, Kyle?
I think a few things. Imagine Bogdanovich on the Milwaukee Bucks. I think about that all the time. Think also about the fact that the Bucks are going to punish them in some ways that Philly wasn't able to consistently. I think Giannis, Bill, I remember I told you I thought that Giannis would average 40 against the Nets. I think he's going to give them a lot of problems in that sense. I think that the Bucks are not getting enough credit for. They did figure some stuff out in regulation in that game 7 against the Nets. They started to run some things and get into a rhythm that worked. I mean, it wasn't fluid and firing on all cylinders, but I mean, they did get some stuff going. But I also agree with KOC. I think it's going to be a close competitive series, but I'm still going to go with the Bucks.
I was shocked by how easily Giannis was creating stuff on the left block, and then more shocked that Bud just wasn't going to it every time, because it seemed like that was the first time I was really like, wow, this is actually unstoppable. He's either drop stepping and getting a layup or a dunk. He's going into the paint and doing a jump hook, or they have to double team him and he's finding somebody. And then they would run the next play for like Chris Middleton into two guys. And you'd be like, what happened to the Giannis play that just got you another layup? Where maybe he was too tired. I don't know. I do like a Kongwu, whose name I'll never be able to say. I'm sorry. It's my.
That's
You
pretty
just said
good.
it.
That's good.
Did I
That
say
was
it? All right.
exactly
My
right.
speech dyslexia. I was really impressed by him in round 2, and I do feel like they have dudes to throw at Giannis. Like it's not going to be a walk in the park for him against the Hawks. I'm way more worried about the perimeter stuff with the Hawks if Bogdanovich can't do stuff, because I do think that was the biggest reason that series kept going even before he got hurt. Was just, it's just so nice to have the two ball handlers out. I don't trust Lou Williams. I still think he's one of the worst playoff players of my lifetime. Maybe he has a chance to flip that.
Worse than Dexter Pittman?
Waz, what happens?
What
happens for an Atlanta Los Angeles final?
Oh man.
I mean, just from off the court, what is America capable of with Atlanta and Los Angeles?
We gonna have to talk about COVID NBA
I was gonna
finals
say, COVID.
travel restrictions off Mike Bill Simmons if that's the case. Listen now. We're gonna have to get into that if we get that somehow. Woo! That's a media dream right there, bro. You get to go back and forth between Atlanta and Los Angeles. Woo!
Well, you know what's crazy? The Clips, home court goes through the Clips now, right? Isn't that what it is? Like no matter what happens, if they win, if they can beat Phoenix, I think home court goes through the West.
Better record than the Bucks.
I think they did.
Wow.
Isn't that true?
Yeah,
Am I crazy?
the Clippers were 47-25. The Bucks were 46-26.
Yeah. So the West is going to host 1, 2, 5, and 7. So obviously I'm rooting for the Clips because the finals will be right where we are. All right. Hey, this was really fun. What an action-packed lottery. I actually got discombobulated. Teams were jumping, they were flying around. Waz, Kyle, KOC, great to see you. Thanks to everybody on Green Room and on Twitter and on YouTube. You can hear the full episode on my podcast much later tonight. And we will see you next time.